சரி, இப்போ அடுத்த நிகழ்ச்சி என்னங்கிறத பற்றி ஒரு சின்ன ஏவி.
IBCN
என்ன தலைப்புன்னு பார்த்தீங்க, நம்ம நகரத்தாரில் பல பெரிய தொழில் அதிபர்கள் இருந்திருக்கிறாங்க, தொழில் முனைவர்கள் இருந்திருக்கிறாங்க. ஆனால் நகரத்தார் நலனை மட்டும் இல்லாமல் நாட்டு நலனையும் முன்னேற்றணும் அப்படிங்கிற ஒரே குறிக்கோளோட முன்னேறின ஒரு குடும்பம். தொழிலை வேகமாக முன்னேற்றி கொண்டு வர முடியும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு ரொம்ப முன்னோடிகளாக இருந்த ஒரு குடும்பம். தனி ஒருவராகவே நல்ல திறனாளர்களை கையில் வைத்து கொண்டு நகரத்துக்கும் தன்னை சுற்றி ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு தொழிற்பேட்டையே உருவாக்க முடியும் அப்படின்னு நிரூபித்து காமிச்ச குடும்பம் ஏஎம் முருகப்பா குரூப்.
அதாவது அம்பத்தூர் தொழிற்பேட்டை இன்றைக்கி இவ்வளோ பெருசாக உருவெடுத்து நிற்குதுன்னா அதுக்கு இவங்களும் ஒரு முக்கிய காரணம் என்பதில் எந்த ஒரு சந்தேகமே கிடையாது. அதாவது இது அவங்க இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ் உருவாக்கும் போதே அதை சார்ந்த நிறுவனங்கள், அதாவது அலைடு இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸையுமே கூட வளர்த்து அந்த தொழிலில் எப்படி வெற்றி பெறுவதுங்கிறதையும் நமக்கு எல்லாத்துக்கும் காமிச்சு கொடுத்துருக்குறாங்க.
அவங்களோட அனுபவங்கள் நிச்சயமாக எல்லாருக்கும் ரொம்ப பயனுள்ளதாக இருக்கும். அதன் நிர்வாக தலைவர், அந்த குடும்பத்தில் வந்தவர் திரு A.Vellayan அவர்கள் த நீட் டு க்ரோ யுவர் பிஸ்னஸ் சிக்னிஃபிகன்ட்லி இந்த தலைப்பில் இப்போது உரையாற்றவிருக்கிறார்.
அவர்களை கௌரவிப்பதற்காக நம்ம சேர்மன் A.N. சொக்கலிங்கம் அண்ணனை மேடை கழிக்கிறோம்.
Good morning and இனிய புத்தாண்டு வாழ்த்துக்கள். For the local people it means Happy New Year. Yesterday was the New Year, Tamil New Year, and so I think we're meeting here on the first day after the Tamil New Year is very auspicious. It is my pleasure to participate along with you in this excellent initiative undertaken by all of you to organize the IBCN 2017. When I first met with Chokalingam and a few of you in Chennai, I was really surprised that there were so many Nagaratars in the Middle East. And the fact that you have gathered 700 people here, 200 from the Middle East and 500 from overseas, is extremely impressive. Well done, and thanks for inviting me. Clearly, your objective of promoting entrepreneurship among Nagaratars is a very laudable one, and I am more than happy to share some of my thoughts and experiences with you today. And I hope that this will help in the cause for which this movement has been started. I have a slight disadvantage compared to the two speakers ahead of me. Both of them were first generation. And so they started from scratch and they had their stories to tell about how they made it in life. I happen to have a disadvantage and carry the baggage of being a fourth generation. And normally they say the first generation creates the wealth, the second generation builds the wealth, the third generation spends the wealth, and the fourth generation is debauched. Fortunately, because of our forefathers, we had set ourselves some kind of basics in terms of values and beliefs, and that has held us in good stead and actually got us now into the fifth generation also. And I hope that we will make that statement untrue. Friends, our community has had a glorious past, and it is only so long that we can bask in that glory. In fact, I think that the initiative that you have started is a much needed impetus for our community. If one looks back, the preeminence that the Chettiar community commanded in those days has been considerably reduced both in terms of wealth and influence in today's context. In my view, a lot of this has happened because for too long we have lived in the glory of our past, and somewhere along the line we have lost the spirit of entrepreneurship, which has been the hallmark of our community. Today, I'm going to use this opportunity to talk to you about how I helped in building our group's business from the time I took over as chairman in 2008-09. And I said to you earlier, I was the fourth generation. My presentation will cover some background about our group and family and take you through the journey of our growth and leave you with some thoughts and experiences which could be helpful to you in your path of entrepreneurship. In all humility, I must say that while we have managed to make some progress, I will not by any stretch of imagination say that we have done a great job or that we have outperformed many other entrepreneurial business groups in India who have grown much more impressively than us during the same period. I did put together a presentation, but I'll run through parts of it which are not relevant. Broadly, it will give you an overview. The earlier speaker talked about the professionalization in family business. I'll tell you about why we had to do this. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about my role in this, because I inherited something and I felt that I had to grow it, and therefore I used a particular strategy in doing this. And then I'll end with the way forward. See, currently our group is roughly about $4.5 billion in revenue. It has a market capitalization of about $7.5 billion. It employs 40,000 people directly and has 55 manufacturing locations in 17 countries. When I took over, the group had a turnover of about 15,000. Today it's about 30,000. And we had an EBITDA of about 1,400, and now it's about 4,000. Most of our group's growth has been driven by a combination of acquisition. We believed that we could buy assets cheap and turn them around. So we bought the entire GMR sugar facilities in Andhra and Karnataka. We bought Cargill's facilities of a refinery which is very similar to the Al Ghurair refinery in Dubai, in Kakinada. We bought over a nutraceutical company, a new generation business recently in the US. And in the fertilizer field, we have bought a number of companies and grown the business. And in Coimbatore, we took over Shanti Gears just recently. We also, at the same time, expanded our businesses in Sri Perumbudur, in the abrasive business, and in the tubes and cycle businesses. The third facet of our growth has been led by partnerships. We have partnerships in Tunisia, South Africa, Japan, and Chile, where we are dealing with companies which make raw material or products which ultimately are sold in India. So if you look at it broadly, over this period we have invested about 8,000 crores, about 6,500 coming from internal generation and about 1,500 from new capital. Now to talk about professionalization in family business. As I mentioned, we are 5 generations. I'm on the 4th. The business itself was founded by my great-grandfather, who went as a Kaiyal to another Chettiar in Molmeen. My grandfather, who's directly under him, A.Vellayan Chettiar, he was the one who actually grew the business in Burma. And there are a few lessons from his story. He could speak fluent Burmese. He was a member of parliament in Burma. And he died at an early age, but he had created quite a name for himself. And he was president of the Rangoon Club and a very social person. And one of the things he did was he took on a local leadership, the current lady Aung San Suu Kyi's father, and he didn't get along, and that's why he had to close down and we had to move along with the others. My grand uncle, Mr. A.M. Murugappa was the one who really built the foundations of the business in India. And here I'd like to share a small story with you. He was a man of class. And even at that time, when we had lost everything in Burma, he took the boat back from Molmin, which had 3 first-class cabins. The other 2 first-class cabins were occupied by the Governor General, and the third by a chairman of a company in UK. By the time they landed in Calcutta, Mr. A.M. Murugappa had sweet-talked that gentleman, Sir Ivan Stediford, into giving us a dealership to sell bicycles. Within a year, he sold so many bicycles that Sir Ivan Stediford came to India and gave us the money to set up TI cycles. And the rest was history. So that's how, the group started. Of course, the third generation, and particularly my father, Mr. Arunachalam, and Mr. Subaya, and Mr. Alagappan, built on this base and handed over to me in 2008-09. And we have the 5th generation also in business, but not all of them are in business, and that's where the professionalization is starting to come in. So what happened was, during this period, they had, the earlier period was a very visionary period, and one full of the spirit of entrepreneurship. Then came this patriotic period when we came to India and started from scratch. Then came this period where we had to go through a whole lot of protectionism in the Indian economy, in the license Raj. And this was about the time when I got into business. And very early days, my father said to me that if you have to survive in business in India, you have to speak in Hindi, curse in Punjabi, and count in Gujarati. Otherwise, you cannot survive. And one of the reasons he also said it was because he realized that doing business in Tamil Nadu was going to become impossible. Although our group is based in Tamil Nadu, as the earlier speaker said, the political governance and corruption had gone to such a level that today only 35% of our group is in Tamil Nadu, 65% is outside Tamil Nadu. And therefore, I would urge all of you coming to India, please learn at least Hindi, because if you have to survive in India, you need that. Now, moving on, the transformation from a family-operated to a family-governed business. In India, 65% of the businesses are family-owned, and 70% of the market capitalization is controlled by family-owned businesses. So it is the dominant form of business around the world. So when we're talking entrepreneurship, we are on the right track. So that's what I wanted to say. And what really happens is, in a typical situation, you have a founder, owner, manager. The earlier 2 speakers who are founders, they are owner managers. Then we have owner and we have a manager. And then we have the owner and manager, and the gap keeps widening. And we are in that stage today where the 3rd and 4th generation are having to manage this, what I call the schisms in the reality of how you work. So what happened? How do you bring about this professionalization? We have an unwritten code in the Murugappa group, which I want to just share with you. The first thing is, although we are family, responsibility of business does not necessarily go in line with the shareholding. So all of us are not in the business. For instance, in the 4th generation, only 4 of us are in the mainline business. The other 4 or 3 decided to be in smaller businesses or just following something interest of their own. Because we believe that you have to have the capability to create value. Otherwise, if you sit as an owner in that chair, you'll end up destroying value. So as long as your shareholder getting your dividend is not necessarily that you have to be responsible for the business. However, we have kept the salaries of all family members transparent and generation specific. We did this because in our community especially, we don't want any jealousies among the families. So although I may be chairman of the group, My younger brother, who is not involved in the business, he and I drive the same car. We have the same everything else. I only get an extra commission for the work I do and the responsibility I take. But otherwise, our lifestyles are absolutely the same. Third, we have a structured form of dialogue which is formal and informal for conflict resolution. So the least number of times we go to court, either in the business or within the family. We try to resolve it amongst ourselves. Now this one is a controversial one. Only male lineage is in the business. And the reason we adopted that is because my great-grandfather truly felt that when you get a girl married into another family, she has to respect that family and not show the arrogance of coming from this family. Therefore, you please behave accordingly. We also adopted a Bill of Rights and Responsibilities, and we've kind of documented the family process. And we have been open to external facilitation more than 2 or 3 times when we've had some simmerings of conflict. We brought in external people who have taught us how to move forward. So what we have done now is we've created a governance structure. We have executive directors, independent directors, and a corporate board. And then under that we have the group companies and the statutory boards. So we have 7 listed companies which are broadly governed by the corporate board but managed individually as companies. Right now, it just happens to be that I head the corporate board and my cousin, brother, Mr. Murugappa is the vice chairman. But we have the 3 executive directors, Mr. N. Srinivasan, who heads the financial vertical, Mr. Ramesh Menon, who heads the smaller businesses and the HR, and Mr. Ravichandran, who heads all the agri-businesses. We have independent directors in Mr. Uday Khanna, who was chairman of Lafarge and chairman of Bata, Mr. Ishat Hussain, who was the main board director and finance director of Tata's, and Mr. Sridhar Iyengar, who lives in the US but comes for every board meeting, who was chairman of KPMG. Now, some of the principles we follow is that each board is quite independent and our emphasis is clearly on performance, transparency, ethical values, and all intercompany transactions at arm's length. Every company has an ombudsman and we have a whistleblower policy, and we believe in strong internal audit and internal control processes. You know, one of the things which has got the group so far is what I'd like to call as the spirit of the Murugappa group, which is highlighted by what I term as the 5 lights: integrity, passion, quality, respect, and responsibility. And we believe that any family member or any professional, unless he passes this test, and if anybody shows behavior which is outside the line of these 5, any employee is allowed to write to me or to the ombudsman, giving examples of how a manager or a family member has not shown passion and the business has suffered, or has not shown integrity and the business has suffered. So year after year, I go around each location and we talk about this, and we have an open house, and people are encouraged to give me examples of either positive or negative vibes on these 5 values. My journey as chairman started in 2008, and I felt this burden that I was inheriting something substantial, but I needed to build it much bigger. So I had a vision, and my vision was India at that time was growing at something like 5 or 6% GDP. And my vision was that our group should go at 3 times the GDP. And in order to do that, I adopted what I would call as the blue ocean strategy. It's a little heavy, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but I'll take you some of the highlights. See, typically in businesses, you have the red ocean, which is your business tends to compete in the existing market space. You're doing what everybody else is doing. In the blue ocean strategy, you create uncontested market space. In a red ocean, you're trying to beat competition. In a blue ocean, you make competition irrelevant. In the red ocean, you're trying to exploit existing demand. In the blue ocean, you create and capture new demand. In the red ocean, you make value-cost trade-off, but in the blue ocean, you make the value-cost, you break that. And in a red ocean, you align the whole system of a firm's activities and strategic choice of differentiation or low cost. And you do the exact opposite in the blue ocean, where you align the whole system of the firm's activities in pursuit of differentiation. So you've got to be different. So this particular strategy of blue ocean, there's actually a book on it, and I literally practiced this across the group. I won't go into the details, but this change and shift in strategy has had a significant effect in our growth. I'll just go through some of these. So some of the 6 principles of blue ocean are: you have to take your business and reconstruct its market boundaries. You have to focus on the big picture and not the numbers. Always look beyond existing demand. Make sure you get your strategic sequencing right. Overcome some key organizational hurdles and make sure that execution is built into your strategy. Otherwise, it's not worth. So, what we did was we started to diversify our profit pools by growing in adjacent parts of our business. We started looking at acquisitions and turnarounds, and we started looking at how to drive our market capitalization, because then only we had the currency to take over more companies going forward. So, this is some detail into how each company went through its Coromandel Fertilizers, one of the large companies. They went through moving from an agri-input player, from a pure play fertilizer player, and that's how they grew. Similarly, EID Parry, this is a typical story of Tamil Nadu. We had all the units in Tamil Nadu, and I realized we were going nowhere because the cane price was fixed by the government, the liquor was controlled by the government, and we had to sell everything to TASMAC. So we moved, de-risked the business by growing into Karnataka, growing into Andhra, then taking over this refinery from Kargil. Then became a trader, importer, and branded sugar player. And Tamil Nadu today accounts for only 20% of our sugar output. And the story of getting away from Tamil Nadu, every other company in Tamil Nadu, bar us and one company, Banari Amman, is losing money. And here we have been able to grow profitably in this business in India. Carborundum is another business where we invested in Russia, we invested in South Africa, and started controlling the raw materials which make the finished product. The ticker is showing my time is up, so I think I better go faster. But what happened here again, this strategy of going backward integration and controlling the raw material was the key element of the Blue Ocean strategy. And by doing that, we were able to strengthen both our product offering and the bottom line. The tube's growth story was one of import substitution. Today, we are nearly 85% supplier to every two-wheeler manufacturer and four-wheeler manufacturer in India for steel tubes. Anything from shock absorbers to front fork to axles to steering columns and propeller shafts is made by us. The challenge we took on was that we will make that product without any technology from Japan or Germany. And we did it on our own R&D, and that was the story there. Now the move is towards value-added exports, and today we are competing extremely comparatively in the ASEAN markets. Chola Finance has been a great story for us. We started off as an NBFC, extremely small one. We actually then started this company with Standard Chartered Bank. We later on brought in DBS Bank of Singapore as a partner. Soon realized that we did the mistake. We bought them back, and we have now successfully grown this company into a company which has a book of about nearly 30,000 crores and now 800 branches across India. And the revenue is about 4,675, and we just finished the year on a very strong note. As a new business, we entered into insurance. We were one of the first to get the private license in insurance. We joined with MS, who is Mitsui Sumitomo, and today we are the 6th largest private insurer in India. And again, because we had the finance company and we've tied up with about 7 banks, we were able to grow this business and strengthen our portfolio. And you see, we've grown this business at a CAGR of 21% over the last, from 2008-9 till now. So our overall market cap, if you look at it, has risen from where it was in April 2009. Our market cap was about 4,700 crores. And today, as the market closed on Thursday, we were at 50,000 crores. And this has been the growth story. So one of the things which I pushed as a chairman was that the relative positioning of every business that we are in should be either number 1 or number 2. So today, if you take our main businesses in silicon carbide minerals, internationally, we are number 1. We took over this company from a Russian oligarch who sold it very cheap. He sold it to us for $50 million. At the same time, capacity was reducing in other parts of the world. We get electricity at 1.2 rupees per unit. We get pet coke from Luke Oil for nothing. So this is the lowest cost producer. We make here and supply to the rest of the world. Within India, we are number 1 all India in steel tubes, electrominerals and abrasives, and number 2 in bicycles and chains. And regionally, keeping with the same philosophy, we're number 1 in phosphatic fertilizers, number 1 in sugar, and number 1 in non-banking finance. So, friends, the reason I push for this is that I'm a firm believer that unless you are number 1 or 2, you will not have the pricing power, neither will you have the purchasing power, and ultimately good people who are the people power will not come to work for you. So if you build your model to become strong and be number 1 or 2, the rest of it will follow. And so this journey continues. And if you look at today, we are extremely lucky. India is the fastest growing major economy. You look around the world, 2.8%, 1.2, China 6.5. So we are fortunate. We are blessed to be in 7.2. And with the current leadership of Mr. Modi, I can tell you for the next 10 years, they will sustain this growth. There will be a lot of aberrations. And I say this with a lot of confidence because many years ago when Mr. Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat, our company, Coromandel, set up a joint venture in Tunisia with him. We set up a $600 million phosphatic facility with the Tunisian government. 50% of the output goes to Gujarat State Fertilizer and 50% comes to Coromandel. And on that day, it was a fateful day for me because Mr. Modi had sent word that I should come and meet. And I was refusing to partner with the government company in Gujarat. So he asked me in Hindi, he says, "Aapka kya itaraz hai Gujarat ke saath partner karne ke liye?" That means, what is your objection to partner with Gujarat? So I said, "Sir, I have no objection in partnering with Gujarat." And I replied him back in Hindi. But I don't want to work with a government company because there will be too much bureaucracy. So he said, "Your worry is that decisions will get delayed?" I said, "Yes, sir." So he said, "We called the entire board of that company, GSFC, and their owners, Gujarat Industrial Investment Corporation. And he said, make the JV agreement in such a way that all commercial decisions will be taken by Coromandel and GSFC will follow." This man is incredible. There are people objected. He said, "I can't understand. Do you want to have a phos acid or do you want to have an agreement, And today, since he became Prime Minister, I've met him 3 times. The first time I met him was when I was President of the Indian Sugar Mill Association. He has a very good memory. And I presented him a way forward because 2 years ago the Indian sugar mills were in extremely bad shape. So I had put together a presentation based with the help of McKinsey on what Brazil has done and what Thailand has done, and based on that, a way forward. He sat through a half-an-hour presentation. Of course, before you get to him, he has a staff of 240 people in the PMO. He has 18 joint secretaries, and he has about 120 people who are ex-BCG, McKinsey, or Arthur Little working, who do the analysis. So they had told him, they had been through this and said, a combination of the Thailand and Brazil strategy is the way forward. So he sat through the presentation, and within 45 minutes, he came up with a solution. He said, look, I agree with all you say, but you need to tell me 3 triggers which will not allow the sugar price to go beyond 40 rupees, because the average Indian should not be paying more. So we went back to the drawing board, fiddled around with what ethanol pricing should be, when import should be allowed, and then within 3 months, new policy was announced. And ever since that policy is announced, there's not been a single overdue payment to farmers for cane. So this guy is thinking. Similarly, the second time was in the fertilizer business when we had huge outstandings in subsidy. So now he's brought out a new scheme called the direct benefit transfer, which he did for LPG. Now it's for fertilizer. The trick here is, earlier on, fertilizer subsidy was given when you dispatch from the factory. Now fertilizer subsidy will be given only when it is sold to the farmer. So they expect to save 35,000 crores out of 80,000 crores because actual sale was not happening. Because we were subsidizing, it was being smuggled to entire SAARC countries. And we were subsidizing the economies of all these countries. So he found this out. And now he's put this in place starting from June. And we all cooperated with him. And that's why I'm so confident that this 7.2% will happen. So he's brought a lot of macro policy reforms, and budget 17-18 also has made a lot of changes. And I think, so based on this, we've made out a way forward for each one of our companies. I won't bore you with this, but basically, end of the day, what we have said is that we will take advantage of scale in addressable markets. We'll take our effective capacity utilization to 90-95% because Make in India is being supported by the government. We'll have a selected global play in Russia, in ASEAN, and a few other places. We'll grow with partnerships, we'll grow with value-added products. And we're going to make a big pitch towards digitization and innovation. And as I move on, we've set a vision for 2020 that our group's revenue should touch 50,000 crores and our group's EBITDA should be nearly 8,000 crores. So, friends, very often I used to wonder why today the Nagaratars are not as successful as the Ambanis, Mittals, and Jindals. Many of them, the Mittals and Jindals, are good friends of mine. Or more recently, as successful as the Bansals, Agarwals, or Sharmas. With some soul searching, I think one of the problems is that we are not innovative enough and are not able to think big. Unless this mindset change comes, our community will become an also-ran. So it is time that we step ahead, reflect, and make that switch in becoming more entrepreneurial. All of you are in the Middle East. You're in the hot seat for entrepreneurial activity. And surely some of you will have to start looking at transitioning from being an employee to an employer. It is not always that you have to do this alone, and you can always do this in partnership, as each one of you may have different skill sets. During the last half hour, I've tried to share with you a glimpse of how we have grown, how we have professionalized, and how we have partially succeeded in our entrepreneurial journey as a family. Some of our key learnings and principles have been shared with you, and I hope these are going to be useful to you in your journey for entrepreneurship. I really wish this initiative of IBCN all success, and thank you for inviting me here today. Thank you.